afternoon. I'll just wait a few moments and see if anybody joins me live. I have advertised I'm going live, so I'm hoping one or two people might join me, although it is lunchtime. Oh yes, hello, who is that? It's Maxine and someone else. Hi Maxine. Now, just bear with me because I've actually got a tablet out and I'm just going to see if I can actually watch once I've turned my camera around using my tablet. Hi Mum. Hi Carol. I don't know how people use two devices while they're actually doing a live. I have no idea. Good grief. I mean, there must be a delay. Anyway, I'll just keep talking. Sorry, I'm looking over here because I'm looking at the icons and I know that the camera's here somewhere. So hello. I'll just keep talking while I'm looking at my tablet as well. See if I can actually work out how to see myself while I'm doing a live. Posts. Oh, here we go. Oh, I can see it. So I can see it, but I can't see. It's saying watch in apps. I'm just going to leave it there because I don't want to be too distracted by that. Just trying a bit of extra tech because I've actually dug out an old tablet that I haven't used in a long time. So hello and welcome to my live. Enough of me waffling on about tech. Let's get on with some crafting because I actually know how to do that. I know how to do things with paper and my fingers. So welcome and thank you for joining me. I'm Izzy Shashinsky and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the UK. And today I'm going to share with you a couple of cards. One is a fancy fold and the other one is just a really pretty card, and these are the other two cards from my class that I ran at the beginning of April. So I do a 3-card class on the first Wednesday evening of every month in person in my local village. And last week I shared one of the cards with you, and I also cased a card that I'd received from Renee. Hi Renee. And this week I'm going to share with you the other 2 cards that were from that class. But before I just spin the camera around, just a couple of happiness points. So I usually share a couple of things that have made me happy since I last spoke to you. So at the risk of sounding like a British politician, I'm just going to repeat something 3 times. Sunshine, sunshine and sunshine. That's the thing that's really made me happy. We've had some really quite nice weather, still a little bit on the chilly side at the moment here. It is still April, and we do have a saying in the UK, and it goes like this: "Nae cast a clout till the May is out." And I always used to say "nae cast a clout till May is out," and I always used to think that it meant, I think it's a Scottish saying actually, I always used to think it meant don't take away your winter clothes until the end of May, till after the end of May, but actually it really means don't stop wearing your winter clothes until the May is out, the Mayflower is out, and the Mayflower usually flowers early in May. So I'm hoping for some Mayflowers on the hedgerows. That's hawthorn flower. So I'm hoping for some hawthorn flower, and then I can get rid of my overcoat, and then I can believe it's actually summer because it's still a little bit chilly, but the sunshine is glorious. So that's what's made me happy. Please feel free to comment about what's made you happy since I was last here last week. And now we're going to crack on. I'm going to spin the camera. I'm going to cross my fingers that that doesn't cut me off, because sometimes this phone has a habit of being naughty. So here we go. Okay, so we've turned. Let's get you in position so you can see. The cards I'm making this week are these 2. So this one is just a pretty card, and I'm highlighting retiring products, and I will be talking to you about them as I craft, as I make along. So pretty card. I'm going to change some of the colours out on this card. And this is my fancy fold. So it's a, I don't know what you call it, but it has a peephole for the sentiment and it has a little fold. Oh, Mum, you went downtown without your coat on this morning. Wow, well done you. Well, I thought about not wearing socks today and then I put them on. Okay, so I'm going to take a seat just now, and I will just stand up and sit down as we go along, as we craft along. I don't know if anybody's crafting along with me today. Please use this host code here. I usually just make a note of this and I'll just point it out now. If you're shopping with me this week or until the end of April, this week or next week, please add this host code to your order, and that will allow me to send you a free gift and a thank you card in the post if your order is over £20. We have free shipping starting at 11 p.m. UK time today, and that will be for 24 hours only, and that's on orders over £60. I think I'm going to start with this card just now, so let me just pop that one back to one side. So this card, I'm going to change the colour out ever so slightly, but only a little bit, and that's only because in class we used pale papaya cardstock, and pale papaya cardstock I believe has sold out. So I'm going to switch out to Mango Melody, another retiring colour, and I'm still going to use, and there is still some Mango Melody cardstock on the inventory at the moment, and that is in the sale, and that's £6.12 for a pack of 24 sheets of Mango Melody. So I'm just going to keep moving things around, bear with me. Just going to bring my stamp and cut and emboss machine in because we will be using that as well. Yeah, so we're going to use some Mango Melody. So let's start with the card base, and the card base is just a normal regular sized card base. So I'm going to trim my A4 sheet to 14.8. I usually do 14.8 centimeters, just shy of 15. And then I'm going to score that at 10.5 centimeters. So it's just a regular card blank. There we go, in Mango Melody. And I'm not going to need the other half, so I'll just pop that to one side. We're also going to need some basic white, which I've not got out into my supplies. Just bear with me. Every time I do a live, one thing, I've prepped everything in a box to the side of me. The one thing I forget every single time is basic white. I don't know why, I seem to always forget to get my basic white cardstock out. So basic white cardstock we're going to trim down to just slightly smaller. If you can see on my original, it is actually just a card in reverse, a card blank in reverse, and then scored again in half and folded back. But I'm going to make it just ever so slightly smaller than the outer card blank. So I'm actually going to trim my basic white cardstock down to 14.5 centimeters. Put that to one side. And I'm going to trim it down to 20 centimeters. Now I know that A4 is 21 centimeters, so to save me extending this leg, I'm just going to trim off 1 centimeter using the measuring scale on my right hand side of my trimming gutter. I'm going to call it a gutter today, let's do that. And then I'm actually going to score at 5 centimeters and at 10 centimeters. So quite a simple fancy fold. So what that will allow me to do, if I just pop my trimmer slightly to one side, what that will allow me to do, just reach for my bone folder, is fold that back this way, give that a nice burnish with my bone folder, and then fold that piece back this way. So quite a simple fold. It's like a card blank with the hinge on the reverse side, and you can see how that will go together like so. I'm also going to need a couple of pieces of designer series paper, and I'm going to go back to using this retiring. I'm just going to reach for the full pack, which is just to one side of me. It's called Pretty Prints, and it is a pack of 12 pieces, and it's the one that coordinates with the Sun Prints suite, and it will be retiring, and it has lots of different colours. I've actually used up all of my let me have a look. Coastal Cabana, no, Petal Pink, oh goodness, Calypso Coral. There were some pieces that were Calypso Coral coloured, and I've used them all up. So there's some shades of green, I want to say, and shades of purple and shades of orange. I'm just going to call them those colours, and really lovely double-sided. I've used quite a lot of this DSP up on other projects. Particularly love this pattern with the big pattern, and this is like cyanotype printing. If you're not familiar with cyanotype printing, please Google it. It's a really fascinating form of printing, and it uses sunlight, hence the suite being called Sun Prints. And I did have a play at cyanotype printing last summer, and it's really quite easy. Materials are freely available or easily available online, and it's really quite an easy technique to get the papers pre-prepared. You don't need to mess with the chemicals. Anyway, back to this card. So my designer series paper needs to measure 14.5 by 10. So let's have a think. Let me do it this way, 10 centimetres. Let's trim it down this way. I think that should be there or thereabouts. Let's just trim a little bit. The other thing I love about this is it's quite ombre. There's quite a nice lot of shade and tone going on in this DSP. I really love it. And I need another piece that is 14 by 4.5, and that piece goes inside. Let's have a look at which one to cut off by 14. There we go. And I was just looking at the pattern, and I was trimming off the bits that I trimmed off with the pieces that had least pattern on those bits of DSP. So they're my pieces of designer series paper. I will also need just a tiny scrap. Actually, I've used inside, if you have a look, I've stamped my dragonfly, and inside I've actually punched a little copper foil dragonfly. Now I haven't got any copper foil cardstock out, and rather than me disappear and try and find some, I think I might just reach for a piece of this, which I'm going to use on my next project, because we've got quite a bit of coppery coloured foil, so I can use a bit of that. Yes, this DSP is actually retiring, and it is £9 at the moment in the UK. I've got lots of notes everywhere, so I'm just trying to keep up as well as checking out the measurements. So let's pop the trimmer to one side, and I'm going to start to assemble. I do have another piece of basic white here for my stamping, but I'm actually going to start to assemble the front of the card. I'm not going to assemble the middle because we're going to do some stamping on that as well. The first thing I'm going to do though is stick this piece of designer series paper to the front of the card, and the thing to watch with this is to not actually put any glue in the middle. So you want to put glue of your choice. You can use your tape glue, Stamp and Seal Plus, or in this case I'm going to use Tombow multi-purpose liquid glue just around the edges, and I'm not going to put any in the middle at all because I'm going to punch that circle. And I'm just going to stand up and have a look at comments. Haha, lovely, thank you Renee. So I'm just going to stick that down so we can see that lovely contrast of Mango Melody just round the outside. So now we've stuck that on, we can actually punch, and I'm going to use 3 punches for this card: a 2-inch circle punch, the 1 3/4 inch circle punch, and the Dragonfly punch. Now, the Dragonfly punch is actually carrying over and will be in the new annual catalogue. However, the stamp set that both stamp sets actually I'm going to use for this card are both retiring, and I'll come to those in a moment. First of all, the 2-inch circle punch and the 1 3/4 inch circle punches are both available right now as a online exclusive. They may be temporarily out of stock because they've been so popular, bringing them back in. I think they may have just gone out of stock in the UK, but they will be restocked, so they're going to be available exclusively online. And we do have another circle punch which will be appearing in the new annual catalogue, and I think that is I think it's 1.5, but I could be mistaken. So I'm going to actually pop my 2-inch circle punch. Now, I've had mine for about 11 years. You can see this is a well-used, well-loved circle punch. So I'm going to pop it all the way in as far as it will go, and I'm going to actually look that I've got equal at either side, and I'm going to give it a really good punch, and that punches the circle from the middle. Now, we do get a circle of DSP and a circle of Mango Melody card, and we're going to use this one. I'm going to pop that one just there. We're not going to use this one, so I'll pop that to one side. I might be able to use it on another project. I'm just going to burnish this card base to stop it from bouncing about so much. And we'll be using the 1 3/4 for the sentiment. I'll just pop that 2-inch punch to one side. Before we do any more punching, let's do some stamping. This is the fun bit. I'm going to decorate the inside of my card. Let's bring in the original so you can see it. So I'm going to actually decorate this bit and this little bit here. And we're going to do some beautiful colouring using Stampin' Right markers. So I'm going to be using the Dragonfly Garden stamp set, which is retiring and is currently on sale. Excuse me. And that's £8.80. And I'm going to be using Framed Occasions, another well-loved stamp set. I am so disappointed that this is not carrying over. I have used it such a lot. At first glance, it doesn't look that exciting, but all of these pieces, these image pieces, have been very well used, very well loved. And I just think that the sentiments are really useful. And look at that bargain price, £6.80 in the sale. And I've checked that all of these products that I'm using today are all in stock currently, with the exception of the circle punches, but I do know that they'll be coming back in. So I'm going to use the tall flower image from the stamp set, and I'm just going to reach for some Stays On Black ink. I'm going to use Stays On Black ink because I'm going to use Stampin' Right markers in a variety of colours. So let's take the ink to the stamp, and I'm going to give it a really good ink up. And I'm going to position that image to the left gorgeous fine line image. I really have loved this stamp set. I always love anything with botanicals, flowers, florals. Excuse me, I'm just going to reach for a piece of scrap for the simple reason that I will just need to stamp slightly off, and I don't want to get that image on my desktop. So let's just do that again. Let's make sure we're nice and inked, and I'm actually going to stamp that image to the right hand side, but just lower down, so I get a small image there. I think I've just wobbled that as I've stamped it, but again, it's a lovely stamp, really beautiful image. So I'm just going to pop that one to one side, ready for cleaning. And I do need to stamp my sentiment, which I have chosen actually. Wishing you the best day ever. And I want to stamp my dragonfly on this piece as well. So when we're stamping with a coordinating punch, we need to think about whereabouts the image on the punch is. So I need to stamp my dragonfly towards the bottom of the cardstock. So that when I feed the piece of cardstock into the punch, it will be positioned correctly. And also in the stamp set we have this image of dots, a dotted circle. Now I didn't use that on my original card for class, and I'm not sure whether it will. Let me just see. I think I should just be able to punch that, so I'm just going to actually make that one tiny change to this card. So I've got those dots. I'm not a fan of using Stays On ink with photopolymer stamps for that reason. So I'm going to actually stamp that again, because photopolymers are very sticky material. Now if I was to re-ink my Stays On ink pad and make sure it's really juicy, that wouldn't happen. But as you can see, my Stays On ink pad is actually juicy enough, so I've just actually swapped to a Memento, because that's much better, because I'm not adding colour to this. This is just a sentiment. There we are, much happier with that. Yes, my Stays On ink pad is juicy enough to stamp this image for colouring, so I'm not going to actually re-ink it. I'm just not a fan of using Stays On ink with a photopolymer stamp that has a large surface area, and you can see that this sentiment has large letters. It would be absolutely fine if it was, let's say for example, we'll just grab that stamp set again, here we are. The Thinking of You would stamp really well. To a Happy Future would struggle again, because it's those chunky fat letters, and that's why we struggle. So it's one thing just to bear in mind. Now we can do a quick punch of that sentiment. Let's get that one done and popped to one side. Oh yes, it does. Just punch that, and that should just finish that nicely with the dotted edge. So we've got that one, pop that to one side. I'm just going to try and keep all of my wet stamps over to one side on the other desk, and I can pop that punch to one side. I've got a lot of equipment out, so I'm trying my best to be tidy. Now I'm going to colour in the dragonfly, and then we can punch the dragonfly. And as I said, I'm going to use my Stampin' Write markers, and I'm going to use colours that are retiring. So Pale Papaya, I'm going to colour those wings, and as I said, I've used Stays On with the Stampin' Right markers you use stays on because the ink is water based, and I'm not doing anything particularly tricky about colouring. I actually do like my Stampin' Blends markers, but for fine colouring, and I would say these wings are probably the largest area that I might colour using Stampin' Right markers. For fine colouring, particularly with the flowers, you'll see that Stampin' Right markers do a really terrific job. I'm just adding a bit more shade there to the middle. I'm going to go and use a Mango Melody as well, just to add another little bit more tone on tone, and I'm just using a flicking motion, but nothing too fancy, just more like a flicking, so I don't get any harsh lines. I'm not sure if the camera can pick that up, but I will hold it up to the camera when I've finished. And I'm going to use mint macaron, and I'm just going to go down that dragonfly's body and add that little hint of a green colour. So something else that's made me happy this week is I've been looking at the wildlife in our wildlife pond in the garden, and I've spotted some newts, which is super. Now, if you're not a fan of amphibians, I'm just reaching for my Wink of Stella. I'm going to add some Wink of Stella just across those wings. If you're not a fan of amphibians, then don't listen to me, but I absolutely love wildlife of all kinds, and we built a wildlife pond a few years ago in our garden, and I spotted a pair of newts, and I think they're crested newts. They've got a really lovely flash of bright orangey red underneath their tummies. And we also have dragonflies that come and visit our pond in the summer. I'll try and take some photographs. So now we can go ahead and punch that dragonfly. So here we go. Because I said we needed to stamp the image towards the bottom, you can see now that that's worked really well. I've been able to punch that out really easily, so I can pop that punch to one side out of the way, and we get this little tiny one for free. Now I do want to punch a slightly more interesting, I could make this interesting actually, I could colour it using my markers, but I'm going to punch a metallic coloured one. And I'm just going to use some of that foil there. Now this is the dry brushed foil speciality paper. It's a bit of a mouthful. Dry brushed foil speciality paper. That's what it's called. It hasn't got a label on my packet because I've popped the label in the bin, and that's actually on sale at the moment. It's £7.50 in the sale. Now I'm going to, I've got all my bits and pieces, let's put those to one side. I'm going to go ahead and colour these pretty flowers. So this is the bit that takes a little bit of time. Let's bring in the original. You can see that you can have a look at the original whilst I'm doing some colouring. But I'm going to again just use my Stampin' Right markers, and I'm going to use the thicker end just for those thicker flower petals, and those slightly larger flowers I'm just using a very light touch. I'm not doing anything tricky here whatsoever. So I'm going to start with pale papaya just on those larger flowers. I think these are echinacea flowers. Have great medicinal properties, echinacea. They can really help boost your immune system. If you start with a cold and you get some echinacea powders from the herbal shop, it can actually help to relieve a cold and help your body to fight off a common cold a lot quicker. So I've just added a tiny bit of shade like I did with the dragonfly using Mango Melody. I'm going to use Merry Merlot for the centres of these. slightly different to the one that I did in class. And I'm going to add some colour to the leaves. I'm going to start with Evening Evergreen, one of the retiring colours, and I'm just going to use the tiny end, and I'm going to go straight down the stems. I'm going to try and work quickly, but I'm also going to try and work as accurately as I can. It's never as easy when you're on a live and you're talking, and also the position of my body is just not quite as natural, because I'm aware that I have a camera here and not to get my head underneath. And usually when I'm doing colouring or concentrating, I might stick my tongue out. Does anybody else stick their tongue out? Oh, it's lovely and quiet here today. I don't know if you can hear my ticking clock in the background. We've got some farm vehicles going up and down, and it's been quite busy with those farm vehicles at the moment. I think they're fertilising the fields. In fact, I think one's just about to come past any minute now. And I'm going to use mint macaron for the leaves. Let me think. Actually, I'm going to use soft succulent for the big leaves. Let's go and do that. And like I say, I really love these Stampin' Write markers for colouring these smaller images. You don't have to worry too much about doing anything too fancy. Just add a splash of colour. It's such a pretty image. We don't need to worry too much about any fancy shading techniques. Just add that colour, and we've got the fine tip end, and we can just go in with some little dashes of colour. The camera's probably not even picking up these really tiny pieces, but I will hold this up to the camera once I finish and you can see. Now I do know that the new Stampin' Write markers, or the Stampin' Write markers of the new colours that are coming in, have had a slight revamp of design for the marker. I believe I haven't actually received my order yet. It's supposed to be being delivered today, but I think we've had a delay in the UK, and I've got a funny feeling that my order is stuck. So the fine nib end has been redesigned slightly, so it's more of a bullet end. Still writes, so it's still a Stampin' Write. You can still write really beautifully, and the the brush tip end has stayed the same, but the actual barrel of the marker is pretty much the same, slightly shorter, and I don't think that we have this coloured section here, but we still have the broad line to denote the brush end and the thin line to denote the nib end, so that even when your Stampin' Write marker has rolled across the desk and you can't read the pictures, you can still see the lines. So I believe that that design has changed ever so slightly. Now I'm just going to add some slightly brighter colour here with mint macaron, and all I'm doing is dabbing that colour on. I'm not taking very much not that I'm not taking very much care, but I'm not taking very much time over adding this colour because I want to get this card finished. Let's add some more colour just with these few. Let's I think I used a yellow actually on my original, but let's use this pale papaya and just dot this colour. Then we can get the card assembled. Yes, I'm really sad to see this stamp set go, but without stamp sets retiring, we wouldn't have space for new stuff. And it's always that question. I get asked quite a lot by customers, oh, why does Stampin' Up have to retire things? Why do things go? That's a lovely stamp set. It only seems to have been here for a couple of minutes. I've hardly used it myself. And I always say, if you went into a high street store where you buy your clothes, perhaps somewhere like M&S, and if you kept going in and they only had the same stuff over and over, you wouldn't go in again, would you? So it is of course all about sales, and it's all about making sure that we, the hobby crafter, have lots and lots of nice new stuff to play with. And of course trends change, just like with clothing and homewares and fashion of any kind. Trends change, so colours change. That's why we've had a colour refresh, or we're having a colour refresh. You see lots of new colours coming in, and that's why we have different images every year, because when we do look back, actually I've been doing this 11 years, when I do look back on some of the old catalogues, I've got a copy of every catalogue over the last 11 years, trends really do change. And I'm just going to add this extra piece of designer series paper now. I'm just checking. I've got my darker to the top, so I'm going to just mirror that inside, or match that inside. Just add that panel of designer series paper there to the inside. So that's the inside of my card with the fancy fold decorated and done. Now all we need to do is add those elements to the outside. So the first thing I'm going to do is add the sentiment to that disc. That's really simple. And then I'm going to give you a tip about how to actually stick that in place. So let's pop that there. And then to actually pop that in the right place, I'm going to close the entire card up, and I'm just going to actually add the glue to the inside really carefully. And now I can pop my sentiment through the actual peephole, and you'll see, oh gosh, I didn't put enough pressure on, bear with me, let's do that again. That's the beauty of actually using our multi-purpose liquid glue. There we are, we've got that just in the right place. I can just add a little bit more pressure, and now I'm going to actually add the foil dragonfly first, because when that's peeping through I can cover up with my big dragonfly on the outside. So I'm going to pop that foil one just where I want it on the inside. There we are. And just give that a press down. And now I can close that card up, and I can add my large dragonfly to the outside, covering over that foil one. So I'm just going to take note. I'm going to use a pencil and point out what I'm looking at. So I'm looking at this tip of this wing here and the tip of this wing here, and I know that if I get my glue just on the bottom side of this top wing, and then from about the, let me have a look, definitely some glue on the bottom wings and on the bottom of the body, and I don't want any glue on the top. If I really wanted to, what I could do is position that dragonfly, hold it very carefully, open it and draw a line, but I'm actually going to just eyeball it. So I want some glue just on the tips of the top, and then some glue on the bottom of the bottom and then the bottom of the body, just like so. If I carefully pick that up using the head, I should be able to position that. Let's have a look. There we go, just the tips of the top, and that should stick nicely, and I shouldn't have any glue on the back, and I don't. I think I've actually smudged a little tiny bit of glue just at the bottom there. So now we've got our card that opens, and we have that pop out. Quite a simple fancy fold, but really effective. Now all we need to do is add a little bit of bling just to finish that front off. Let me just pop my markers away, and the bling I'm going to use, I can just grab it, here we go, are the 22 to 24 in colour matte decorative dots, and they are in various colours. So we've got those in colours, the Orchid Oasis, the Starry Sky, Sweet Sorbet, Parakeet Party, and this one which is Tranquil Tide. And I thought maybe the Tranquil Tide colour might coordinate. It's the same sort of shade, it's that turquoisey colour. So I'm going to just add a few of those decorative dots, and they're actually in the sale as well, and they just pop those colours, and they're in oh, I seem to have left my glue dot behind. Bear with me, let me find my take your pick tool, and these are actually in the sale also, and I will give you the price point on these in a second. Let's add a little tiny one as well. There we are, and that just finishes that card off. Let me have a look at the price for those. Oh, £4.50, they're in the sale. Lots of bling and ribbon in the sale, so grab yourself a bargain. So same but different. All I've done is really changed out the colour of the base card. There we are. Oh, I said I'd hold up those images so you can see them in close up. Oh, Rennie, you've got a small pond and some frogs. Oh, how lovely. Oh, newts are fascinating to watch, and I hope you get some dragonflies too. So there you go, you can see, I think you can just about see that wink of Stella if I just twist that round in the light. And if I just show you that colouring, really simple, not too tricky. I didn't add any light or shade, but makes those flowers look really pretty anyway. Super, so that's card number 1. And let's have a little tidy round. I don't think I need, oh, I might need memento. That's that. Let's have a really quick tidy because I've got more equipment to grab for the second card. And this time we're going to be using the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine because we've got quite a little bit of die cutting to do. So for this card we're going to be saying goodbye to Painted Poppies stamp set, which has been around for a good few years. I believe that I was on stage in Germany when this launched in 2019, I think. So that's been around for quite a while. I've used mine so much. I've loved this stamp set. And the stamp set that actually was a big suite with 2 stamp sets and 2 die sets, no longer available as bundles, but this stamp set, Peaceful Moments, was the coordinating sentiment stamp set, and I'm going to be using Thank You this time. I'm going to just change the sentiment out. This one's on sale for £14 and is still in stock, and no, I can't remember what this one was on sale for. I started to use a dry wipe marker, you see. I can wipe that off now. I think my post-it sticker has fallen off somewhere, but this one is Painted Poppies is definitely in the sale. There'll be a post-it sticker languishing in the bottom of my box somewhere. So get those stamp sets while you can. Now I'm going to change this one slightly with the different colours because this card blank is petal pink, and this is not retiring. It's a colour that's staying. However, mint macaron is actually a colour that's retiring, so I thought I would change the card base for mint macaron. And actually, I'm just looking in this pack here. I think I have some already cut, so let's save a full piece. So let's just make that card base. Just check my measurements. Oh, that's a slightly small piece. That's probably why it's still left in there. Let's go with a full one. Let's start again. Here we go. So A4, I'm going to cut that down to 14.8. And I'm going to score that at 10.5 centimetres for my card base. And I'm also going to use, on my original I used basic white, and for this card I'm going to use some basic white, but I'm also going to use some of our linen. Now I'm just reaching for the full pack next to me. Where are we? It is our linen speciality paper, which is retiring. You get two 12-inch by 12-inch pieces per pack, and they are on special at the moment, reduced to £4, 2 pence. And I haven't used this, I'm not sure whether I've used this at all in class, but I'm going to use it for the base of this card because this is a little bit more of a vintage look. You can even distress the paper. So I'm going to cut a piece 10 centimetres. You just trim it with your trimmer, and I'm going to trim that to 14, I think. Let's go for it. And this is self-adhesive backed, so I'm going to show you exactly how it works. And I'm going to use a piece of basic white, exactly the same size. I'm going to back it onto basic white because it will keep the colour nicely. So a piece 10 centimetres by 14 centimetres. And I'm going to now just try with my shaky hands. I'm a little bit chilly. I don't know why. The sun's just disappeared around the other side of the house and my hands are a little bit cold, so I've got ever such slightly shaky hands. I don't know why. So, like I said, we have a self-adhesive backing, which I'm now just going to attempt to peel off. There we are. And then we get this. This is rather a large piece, so I'm hoping I'm going to be able to do this neatly. We get this thin piece of sticky back linen. Again, this is really awkward because I can't get my head over the piece. Bear with me if you get the top of my head in shot. There we are. And I'm not too bothered. Oh, those bubbles have just disappeared. I'm not too bothered if the edges are just slightly off, because I'm going to do a little bit more of a vintage look to this card. So I've now got my linen look piece of basic white, and I am going to emboss that, but we'll do that in a moment. The other pieces of card and paper we need are a little piece of designer series paper, and I've taken this from the Abigail Rose DSP, and that's retiring, and it's still available in the UK. It's not been reduced in price, but if you love it and you've got the Cottage Rose stamp set and matching dies, you might want to stock up on the coordinating designer series paper. Now let me just check. I want a piece that's 9 centimetres wide by 10 centimetres, so I'm just going to chop 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 9 centimetres by 10 centimetres just for that layer. I love this piece. It looks like a piece from a ledger with some names. It just looks like a vintage piece. I really love it. So that's the piece of that. And we're also going to need for this layer underneath some of that dry brushed metallic, oh, what did I call it? Dry brushed metallic something or other. Oh, and I haven't got the name on the pack because I take the cellophane off. This was in the January to April mini catalogue, and the item number is 160837 and it's £7.50. That's not been reduced, but it is retiring, so if you love it, get it now. So I'm not going to cut this piece down because I'm just going to die cut it. In fact, I will just reduce that a little bit. I'm going to take maybe that middle section that's got the most pattern on it. So I'll just pop that to one side. And the other thing we need is another piece of basic white for our stamping. So we're going to do a little bit of stamping just now. Pop my trimmer to one side. And the stamps we're going to use from the image stamp set are the Big Poppy, the slightly smaller Poppy, two different leaves, a double leaf, oh no, it's not a double leaf, a multiple leaf and a single leaf. And we're going to use some splodges. So this one's more of a solid splodge and this one's more a splattery splodge. So we're going to use those as well. And I'm going to stamp in Memento. I could stamp in any colour, to be honest. I was actually going to stamp in Evening Evergreen, but the ink for all of the retiring in colours has all sold out here in the UK. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp with Memento Black. I'm taking time to ink this one up. My stamp set is quite old. I got it straight away and I think the middle has just got a little bit of a dish to it. So I always take my time to ink that one really well. So I'm going to stamp one of each flower. I'm going to stamp one of the multiple leaf. And I'm going to stamp two of the single leaf. And it doesn't really matter whereabouts I stamp these. I'm going to die cut these four and I'm going to fussy cut this one because there isn't a matching die. And I'm now just going to remove those inky wet stamps to the other desk, out of the way. Now I'm going to add colour, and the way I'm going to add colour is really simply by using the splodges. This is how the stamp set was designed to be coloured, and I'm just going to change the actual colours to use some of our retiring colours. So Blushing Bride, you can see how long I've had this ink pad. It's the old style mechanism, and I'm going to colour the poppies using Blushing Bride and this big splodge, and the big splodge is just simply stamped over the top and it adds colour. Now you'll see that some of the edges of the petals don't get that colour added to them. You can, if you like, go back in with the splodge and actually add another ink and another ink to give that saturation, and it gives that kind of watercoloured painted effect, and you can keep going just how you like. So it's a really quick way of adding colour. Now some of my customers don't like this, they don't like the lack of precision because they really like to add colour themselves. I really love the design of this personally, and it's the same. I'm going to say goodbye to Mint Macaron ink and I'm going to use this splatter. I will just stamp it here so you can see how that stamps, just a splatter like an ink splatter, and I'm going to colour those leaves using that ink splatter, just taking care not to get any of that on my pink flowers. And you might be thinking that just looks totally messy, but believe me, when it's die cut, you get this kind of effect. Let's get rid of that inky stamp. So now I'm ready for die cutting and fussy cutting. Let's get rid of some of that ink. I will just need my memento because I'll need to stamp my sentiment. So first thing, I'm going to just trim this leaf, this multiple leaf away. So I'm going to fussy cut that one. And I'm also going to just trim away each of these images into singles, just so that I have wiggle room on my cutting plates on my Stamp and Cut and Emboss machine. Right, let's bring in the big machine. Here we go, and I'm going to stamp. Let's see if we've got any more comments. Hello. Painted Poppy's £22. Thank you, Mum. Thanks for looking that up. I did have a sticker, but it's fallen off somewhere. So I'm going to have, let's do some cutting. So I'm going to have base plate number 1, die cutting. Do not use with embossing folders. This is not a cutting plate. It is for cutting, but we need our base cutting plate number 3. So we need 1, 2 and 3. And we need our dies, painted labels dies. And I think these are in the sale as well, and I didn't actually look up the price for these. And in this set we get these 2 lovely labels. This is actually painted labels dies, and this set coordinated with the Painted Poppies stamp set, because we have coordinating dies for the leaf and both of the poppy images, but we also have these lovely labels. We have one that looks like a miniature doily, one that has this gorgeous swirl with a solid centre. It actually cuts it with a solid circle centre. And then these 2 gorgeous labels, really good sizes for sentiments, and I'm going to use this one with the foil and then this fancy edge, and they are retiring also. So let's position our pieces on our plate. 2 poppies, let's get those pinned down. Let's see, get them the right way. Takes a bit of jiggling round, doesn't it, always when you're using a die. We'll get there in the end. Keep turning till it matches. There you go. Now I'm not using any washi at the moment, but I might just do. Let's see if we can manage without. Let's get that down. 2 leaves. Let's see if we can fit everything on. Let's be a bit clever. And I've got some scraps left from another project here. Let's get rid of those. Sorry if this is a bit painful to watch. There we go. Let's see. That's 1 leaf. I'm going to try and do this with one wind of the handle. And let's see if we can get this one on. And just chuck that one down. Oh, look, here we go. And pop our top plate on. And keep it squeezed, and let's hope nothing jumps out of place. There we go. I just hold that, I can move that out of the way, and let's see what we've got. I knew I'd need that magnetic dish for something. There we go. There's all our pieces. Lovely. And get rid of those scraps. And then we've got our die cut piece, and that's turned out really nicely in that pink. Thank you, Mum. Painted labels, dies, £26.40. Thank you, my able magician's assistant on the sidelines. You've got my back, Mum. Now, before we put away our machine, we're going to actually do an emboss, and we're going to use Time Worn Type embossing folder. This is not retiring. Hurrah, hurrah, it's staying. I just need to grab plate number 4 for embossing only. And did you remove plates 2 and 5? Plate 2 or 5? I don't even know what plate 5 is. Anyway, there you go. Oh, I think that's on the old machine. So I'm going to pop in our piece of linen, speciality sticky backed paper that's been backed on, and I'm going to make sure that the linen side is facing up and my Stampin' Up label is facing up, and that will ensure that it's around the right way. Oh, I know what number 5 was. 5 was our magnetic plate that we no longer have anymore. There we go. Now let's wind that through. I was wondering, I wouldn't have written a number 5 on there if I didn't mean it. So now you can see we have got that lovely texture on texture, because we've got the embossed texture on the linen paper, and it just feels lovely. And I'm going to have a go at distressing that a little bit more, just to make it look a bit more vintage, even more vintage than it already looks. So I'm just having a tidy up, get rid of the machine just to one side. I'm actually pretty well organised today, despite it not sounding it. Here we go. So before I start assembling, the first thing I want to do is stamp my sentiment, and I'm going to stamp it directly onto this piece of DSP here. So I'm going to turn this one into a thank you. I'm using Memento Black, and I'm hoping this is straight. Yay! Happy days. It's always good when your sentiment goes straight. And I'm also going to do some distressing on this and some distressing on this, but I'm not going to take too long about it. And where's my other leaf? I popped a leaf to one side to fussy cut, and now I don't know what I've done with it. Did I scoop it up and put it in the bin? Did anybody else see it? I've been so tidy. Oh, for heaven's sake, Izzy. Found it. There we go. Let's fussy cut this one. So sadly there isn't a die for this multiple leaf, but with a quick fussy cut we will have all of our pieces. As always, if you can, move the cardstock, not the scissor. And the reason for that is it because it helps your piece not get jagged edges. If you just keep squeezing the blades with this hand but wiggling the cardstock with the other hand, it stops you from getting sort of snip, 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 jagged edges. So that's all our pieces. Right, okay. So on my original, I didn't have a distressed piece underneath. I actually just left it quite crisp and white. Now, I don't know which way up this goes. It actually has writing. Well, I'm thinking it's going to be that way up. I left it quite crisp and white underneath, but I think that it would look quite nice if we distressed it a little. So I'm just going to grab that piece of scrap paper, pop that underneath, grab a blending brush, and let's see, which blending brush could I use? I want one with a neutral colour. I've got green on this one, so perhaps I could add some green because we've got some green leaves and we've got mint macaron card base. So let's just see. It's not particularly clean, my blending brush. If you've been using your blending brushes and you've not washed them, you can get rid of it, as much excess ink onto a piece of scrap paper or onto a lint-free cloth, something like one of those microfiber cloths. And then when you do have time, just run and give them all a good rinse under the tap. I'm going to use some mint macaron. And I'm going to just add a bit of blended ink around the edges. And that will just also make that time-worn type stand out even more. I'm feeling quite guilty about this linen paper because I really like it, but I've barely used it. I think I've used it on about, I don't know, 3 projects. And you take things for granted, you think they're going to be here for ages, and then all of a sudden they're going to be retired and you think, oh no, let's show it some love. Now you can see some of that type is actually showing up a little bit as well. For the sake of speed, I'm not going to do too much more blending. I could actually go on with that. And one thing I think I might do is add some speckles, and I'm just going to find, let's have a look, Evening Evergreen. Let's see if I can speckle. Now with blends you can really tap, but I think with markers we're going to have to go in, there we go, into the pen top. Don't like doing this too much because you can damage the nib. But it's another way of adding some sort of distressed look to a piece. Let's add some speckles. I think you can see that time-worn type. And I also think that you can distress the edges with a blade. You have to be careful. Get some fraying going on. Again, I've not tried this with the linen. I used to do this a lot with cardstock, regular cardstock, just using a blade. I'm not sure if the linen's liking that. It's fluffing up a bit. Let's see if we can use the tip. We might be able to get some of that linen to actually fray. Now, you're either a lover or hater of the distressed look. You're either a complete neat fanatic and like crisp edges, in which case, nothing wrong with that. Keep your edges nice and crisp. Don't do any distressing and you won't become distressed yourself. But if you like the vintage vibe, you want to do some distressing, we've got the tools. We've got, as you can see, I'm just using my snips just to try and get that linen paper just to fray. It's fabric after all, so we should be able to break down the fibres and pull out the threads and get that to fray out. I think it would probably do that a lot easier before, there we go, look, it's fraying, and before you stick it onto the basic white. I'm going to give that a curl round as well. Let's pull some of those threads. Let's beat it up. I'll never forget going to a card class myself with my wonderful upline Monica, and the very first time she showed us some distressing technique, she literally got the piece of beautiful cardstock that we just stamped and she went like this. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And she scrunched everything up and reopened it, and I was absolutely beside myself. But then she opened it up and it was a beautifully crushed but softened flower, and that was great. So now we've got a little bit, you can see I've got a little bit of fraying going on the edges, but again, just for the sake of speed and not sending you all to sleep, I think we'll leave that one there. Let's get rid of that scrap paper and let's build this card up. We've now got all of our components, so I'm going to stick this to the base, and I think I'm going to use let's have a look. I think I'm going to use some stamp and seal on this piece, and I'm just going to use a little bit. I'm avoiding the very corners because I've sort of softened the corners, so I don't mind if they look like they're lifting now. Did we say there was a top and the bottom? I don't think we can actually read the text, to be perfectly honest. So you can see I'm going to leave that so it's sort of lifting away at the corners and it's starting to look a bit softer and a bit more distressed. Now where's my bone folder? I buried it. I've probably thrown it in this box. Oh, I need some linen thread. Here we go. Oh, I seem to have got rid of my bone folder. I just wanted to crease that edge. There we go. And I'm going to also just distress this piece, and all I'm doing is I'm taking it in between my finger and thumb and I'm just rolling it. We can add, if we want to, we can add little tears. And we can do opposite corners. And just finger and thumb, just roll that backwards and forwards. And get that to look a little bit more. Do a few little bits of tears so it's not quite so straight. Like so. And that gives it, again, you can see it gives it more texture. We don't need to add dimensionals to this. Now I'm sticking this to linen, so I think again I'm going to use stamp and seal. For the simple reason that if I add wet glue, multi-purpose wet glue, it might just soak straight into that linen and take a while to stick. So I'm just going to add that piece pretty much in the middle. And now we can add this next layer, this little pop of shiny accent. And I'm going to pop that up on dimensionals. Just one to each corner. And I'm not going to do anything in addition to further distress this because it's already dry brushed. It has that sort of vintage look already. Although if you wanted to, you could add extra ink to that. I'm just going to try and add that there so we can still see our sentiment. And I'm going to pop the large flower up on dimensionals. Just maybe two right in the middle, or maybe just one even. Let's have a look. We'll just pop two right in the very middle, and by adding them to the very middle I'll be able to have enough around the edge that I can poke those leaves. And I'm going to make sure that that flower just overhangs the edge of that. It makes it more interesting to the eye. And we'll just take the cap off. A little bit of stamp and seal to the back of that flower. We'll pop that flower just underneath. Again, we'll have some overlap. It makes it more interesting. If you squish everything onto that label, it just disappears and it makes it less interesting. And we'll just pop those leaves underneath. I'm only adding a little bit of that stamp and seal to the very tip of the leaf. Under there, the tip of that one, and then this one can come out at the bottom. I'm going to add some linen thread in a loose sort of bow, but I'm also going to think about adding some additional bling. and I've got some somewhere in this box. What did I pull out? Let's have a look and see. Yes, I got these solid faceted gems. Originally I was thinking of this one. I think this is maybe, I don't know what colour that is, whether that's soft succulent or pool party. The colours aren't printed on, but I'm now wondering about this dark green or the pink. So I'm going to ask you, pink or dark green? And then I'll just do a linen thread bow. I'll stand up and have a look. Oh, I can see half a message disappearing. Somebody was just in the supermarket doing the shopping. Oh, is that Sylvia, I think? Ah, dark green, Lorna. Thank you. Hi, Lorna. I didn't know you were watching. Thank you. Right, we'll go with dark green. Now, I'm just going to tie this bow really quickly. I'm going to leave a long tail on it and just pull that through. Pull it quite tight now. I want a small bow but longer tails. And going with the distress look, let's see, let's leave those quite long. I'll just take a little bit more off. So going with that sort of distress look, I'm going to untwiddle those tails, just twist them the opposite way. I'm going to grab a glue dot and I'm going to use the very tips of my snips to fold that glue dot into half, and then if I can, half again, just make it into a little blob, and I'm going to stick that linen bow just there, and let's add some of those dark green gems. These are solid faceted gems in I don't think they are the retiring in colours. I will have a quick look in the catalogue actually at those colours, but they're retiring. They're £6 at the moment and they are in stock. I did check those. They look lovely. I like these. They've got a bit of a twinkle to them. Oh, I've got dimensional backing on my card there. Gosh, they get everywhere. So let's have a really quick look in the catalogue. Those bling. Let's have a look. Find bling. There we are. There's the bling section. There they are. Solid faceted gems. 180 matte adhesive backed dots in 6 colours. Balmy blue. Let's have a look. Here we are. Balmy blue. Night of navy. Petal pink, melon mambo, pool party, it was pool party, and mossy meadow. So there we are. And they're £6 and they were £7.50. So if you want to stock up on blingy bling, they're a good buy at the moment. So again, same but different, exactly the same card, exactly the same layout, just swapping those colours has made a bit of a difference there. What else have we done? So we've gone a little bit more distressed. We've added linen paper to the basic white cardstock underneath, and we've embossed it. We've added some blended ink, and we've added some splatters. We could go back in actually if that was, in fact I'm going to. This was my card, more is more. More is always more, and I love a splatter. So I will go back in with my evening evergreen and splatter even across those flowers. I'm just going to bring that up to the camera, just see if you can pick that out. I've added more splatters. I absolutely love a vintage look, and I think adding that pop of foil, you can see that just really does lift it as well. So yeah, same but different. In class, in fact, I don't think my original class card didn't have the embossed layer. I'm just trying to find it, or did it? I think this is my original. That's my original class card. And I think it did have the embossed layer. I can't remember. I think it did have the embossed layer. Okay, so same but different. Same but different. We've just slightly changed a couple of things. We've slightly changed the base card colour for this one simply because Pale Papaya has all sold out in the UK cardstock, and we've completely changed the colour scheme on this one just to say a fond farewell to some of my favourite colours, mint macaron in particular. I am so sad to say goodbye to. However, I am incredibly excited about the new colours coming in and some returning colours. I think we've got a really super offering. If you've seen already on social media, you may well have seen the new in colours. I've heard some comments about them looking a bit dull, a bit muted, a bit autumnal, maybe not up everybody's street. I was hoping that my box might have arrived before I did this live so I could actually share with you on camera the new in colours in person. One thing I will be doing is actually doing some colour combinations with the new in colours, and it's always one thing to look at a set of in colours, 5 colours together, and looking at them together and looking at how they work together, but it's something completely different when you start to pull them out individually and mix and match them and combine them with other colours from the core family. So that's one thing I'm really excited to be doing, and I will be doing throughout May. I'll be pulling out some colour combos both in my in-person classes and on my lives. I'm really particularly excited about the new grey that we have coming in the in colours, the Pebbled Path. It's a really warm grey, and I think it's going to look superb both with those bright colours like Parakeet Party, for example, Granny Apple Green. It's also going to look absolutely wonderful with our subtles. So those lovely, the paler pinks, the new pale pink Bubble Bath. It's going to look really classy with, so I'm really excited about that. So watch this space. And I think that's about enough for me for now. I'm standing looking at my screen, and I'm actually on Do Not Disturb, but I've had a message just flash onto my screen from UPS, and I couldn't read it because it flashed up and flashed off again really quickly, and I've got a really strong suspicion that it's saying that my parcel is stuck in Stamford Le Hope and it won't be delivered today. Probably going to be delivered tomorrow when I'm actually in the office, but hey, all we can do is smile and say at least the sun's shining. We'll stay happy, we'll keep calm, and we'll keep crafting. So I'm going to say thank you for joining me just now. If you've joined me live this lunchtime, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you're joining me on catch up, either on my YouTube channel, please give me a like if you've enjoyed it, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe. If you're not already following my Facebook page but you do join me and watch me regularly, please follow my page. The numbers do help enormously to reach extra people. Thank you. Oh, Rennie's saying thank you. Now you want to make cards. Oh no, you're not going to the dentist. No, no, no. Oh, I'm sending my love. It's my thing I hate. I'm dental phobic. Oh, my love, Renee. And thanks again for watching, everyone. Over and out for this week.